Hello, it's Sutonia here, and today we're going to be looking at the Stabber. The Stabber is a fast Tech 1 Mimitar cruiser that has a very high base speed at the expense of almost everything else. I personally think that the Stabber is not very competitive right now, and it's probably the worst cruiser in the game right now when you're comparing the 8 combat and attack cruisers together. Most of the reasons why it's bad is because rapid light missiles are very strong and oppressive to the entire nano cruiser meta right now, and I personally think the rapid lights are currently overpowered. A rapid light caracal will outproject a Stabber in kiting fits, apply better, out DPS it, have a better time against long range tacklers, and it will also out tank it too. And it's also worth mentioning that a caracal with Fury missiles and max kills with drones deals 22,000 damage before reloading, which will kill almost all light buffer fit cruisers in the game, and this really oppresses kiting attack cruisers which cannot surpass this 22,000 effective hit point mark or fight outside 63 kilometers, which is never going to happen solo, right? So I think this, along with the fact that the Stabber only has 8 mids and lows compared to the other attack cruisers which have 9 mids and lows, makes the Stabber very uncompetitive in the current meta. That being said, the Stabber is well known to be an inferior ship and a bad ship, and sometimes this reputation can help you get kills on people who really underestimate it and try to solo you in a saber or whatever. The Stabber might be a bad cruiser, but it's still more than capable of taking on tactical destroyers, interdictors, assault frigates, and some cruisers if they're out of position or succumb to your energy neutralizers. So, getting onto my specific setup for the Stabber, I don't really like kiting Stabbers for the reason I mentioned. The rapid light caracal just shits on it in every single way possible. I really like brawling Stabbers because first of all they're a bit more unexpected, and the second reason is you can really use the 2 utility highs that you have. This is really the only strength that the Stabber has, is the high base speed and the fact that it has 2 utility high slots. And on this fit really I was just kind of joking around, and I actually found it quite fun. So I was just trying to see what would happen if I fit 2 medium energy neutralizers on a Stabber and then 2 large shield extenders. Because hey man, the Hurricane used to be overpowered, right? In 2012, because it could do that. Unfortunately, the Stabber has really terrible fittings, so you do need 2 power grid rigs to fit this. But essentially, I've got the lowest tier autocannons here. 2 named medium nudes. I'm using the 50-watt nudes instead of unstable because unstable are 5 million ISK. Well, these are only 100k each. You only lose half a kilometer of range roughly. So I think it's definitely worth using meta free. I mean, it does nuke a bit less as well, but that's fine. Definitely not worth paying out for the Tech 2 or the unstable. I'm using a Restrained Microwarpdrive here. If you have if you don't have as good fitting skills as me, I think the only fitting skill you really need is I think this should fix. You still have 20 power grid left, even if you don't have advanced weapon upgrades. But if you want to drop this for the compact Microwarpdrive, if you're having trouble fitting, that's perfectly capable. You're perfectly able to do that too. The reason why Quaff Life is better is because it has a lower capacitor penalty, and that means you'll be able to get a few more be able to get like an extra news cycle off or whatever, and also the extra signature reduction can be kind of useful. I mean, you're not going to be kiting anything really, but you know, it's just kind of nice to have. And if you compare this to the enduring Microwarpdrive, the capacitor pretty much depletes in the same sense. And remember, we're like scrambling. You know, it's going to be offline. Like pretty much as soon as we're into scram range. So having the extra base cap to be able to run an extra new or whatever is going to help a lot more than having lower cap on running the Microwarpdrive, because we're not really going to be burning very long at all. So then we've got 2 Tech 2 large shield extenders. That's going to be the main part of our tank. We also have a damage control down here and a single EM rig. You can go with a core defense field extender too if you'd like, but the EM rig is a lot cheaper, and it does kind of add almost the same. And then I've just gone for a J5B here, just because it's cheap. I really like the Stabber is quite bad, and with insurance, I think it's really nice to keep it cheap, just so if you insure it and then it dies, and it doesn't cost much at all. And you can actually make a Stabber this stabber fit quite competitive, even with cheap modules. If you wanted to, you could swap these large shield extenders out for maybe isotropic large shield extenders, and then you'll still have some of the buffer, but it'd be a lot cheaper as well. The big expenses on this stabber really are the Tech 2, the two power grid rigs, then the Tech 2 guns and the Gyrostabilizers. But you can ditch those as well. This stabber fit will actually work quite well with Tech 1 autocannons as well. I don't think I ever used Barrage or Hail in any engagement that I had. Tech 2 Mimitar ammo is definitely not as useful as it is for blasters and for lasers. So if you want to fly this sort of fit and you don't have much ISK, it's definitely possible. You can also, because we have a lot of CPU left here as well, you can definitely go to Meta 4 Gyrostabilizers as well if you want to save a lot of money. One thing not a lot of people know, and this is one of the reasons why I used them in my trial account Rifter video, is that these are almost identical in terms of stats. They both have the same rate of fire bonus, and then this has 10% more damage, and this has 9.8% more damage, which is really close. I mean, it's only 0.2% more damage that we're talking, 2% more damage that we're talking about here. And the main advantage of the Gyrostabilizer Tech 2 is the fact that it uses 4 less CPU than the Meta 4 variation, which is Counterbalance Weapon Mounts 1. But we've got plenty of CPU left here, and again, this fit is quite nice for lower SP players as well. If you don't have CPU Management 5, this will still fit. If you don't have Weapon Upgrades 5 and you haven't unlocked Advanced Weapon Upgrades as well, this fit is still going to fit. And again, if you don't have Tech 2 autocannons here, I'm using them because I obviously have the medium autocannon specialization skill, but Tech 1 is fine if you don't mind. You can go for Meta 4. They actually have the same DPS. I'm not sure how expensive the Meta 4 variations are. That would be the Scout Dual 180. Those are kind of alright. They're actually a bit cheaper than the Tech 2 variation in Jitter. And I'm sure you could drop down to a Meta 3 if you want to save a lot of ISK. So this fit is quite economical, and I think the fit that I'm flying, I think the stabber fit with insurance, it costs, I think, like 15 million ISK to lose, and the main expense is these ancillary rigs, which cost around 4 million each ISK, 4 million each in Jitter. That's the main expense on the ship. It's kind of a shame that this ship doesn't have more power grid. It would be fun to do an artillery kiting stabber or something, but I guess if it did have more power grid, it would basically just be the new Hurricane, right? It would be nice to have an extra slot on this ship as well, because the stabber only has 8 mids and lows, as I mentioned, instead of having 9 like the Thorax, the Omen, and the Caracal. So the idea behind this stabber is you've got 2 medium newts. You don't give a shit about cap. You just want to kind of you can scram kite other close range cruisers like 4X, for example, and obviously you can kill a lot of cap reliant cruisers such as the Omen and the 4X. And sort of any active tank cruisers or cruisers that rely heavily on cap for their guns, but they often don't have a capacitor booster, are definitely ships you can take advantage of. And like I mentioned, the stabber is quite fast. I have max skills here, but I don't have any speed mods fitted, and the stabber goes 2,455, which is about 20% faster than a 4X. So it's significantly faster than most ships, and it can actually almost catch up to a lot of combat frigates. And if you heat, you're actually faster than most attack frigates as well. So it's certainly fast, and because of that, it's quite effective at roaming, because it's a lot harder for you to die at gate camps and other cruisers. Making it back to the gate with a heated Microwarpdrive, even when you're getting ganked by people, is also very effective. Like I said, I'm not using Hail or Barrage much. We don't have a web here, but the tracking is fine, honestly. And that's because the stabber has such a high base speed. Since it goes 362 meters per second, that's actually almost frigate speed. What you can do is you can just double click in space, and as long as you're kind of aware of manual piloting, or you can just use keep at range sometimes if you're lazy like I am. As long as you're piloting well, generally speaking, you don't really need a web to be able to apply. And also, these are the lower tier autocannons. And again, medium autocannons are kind of weird in their tiers, in that they have the lowest DPS increase by going upper tier, as well as the sharpest tracking drop in terms of percentages. So going for the lowest tier autocannons, also they have pretty nice tracking. It's actually very similar to iron blasters, which are fairly decent for tracking. You won't have any problems hitting most cruisers, and you certainly shouldn't have too much problems with frigates. And you also have medium newts as well, so you can newt off frigate control modules like stasis Weber fires and afterburners, which they would use to mitigate your tracking. And the DPS is still kind of okay. You do 380 DPS at 0. Don't be afraid to scram kite as well, even though we don't have any modules, because the stabber has a fall off bonus. We still have 17 kilometers fall off on our guns, so we can still apply most of our DPS to scram range. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the stab as a brawler. It doesn't really suffer so much from getting kited out as maybe the Rupture would, and you don't really need barrage either. I just carry 100 nano paste. I like to keep the stabber cheap. With insurance, it's nice to have a ship that's super cheap. And like I said, there's a lot of ways you can make this fit a lot cheaper, and you still retain a lot of the effectiveness of it. So I want to show you this first clip just to show you kind of like how this fight happened, and the strength of the stabber really. So I find a healer that's just anomaly ratting, and there's no real way to really kill a healer in a stabber. Normally they're passive fit, and because the drones are independent of their capacitor. I mean, you can definitely kill ratters if they rely really heavily on active tanks, or if they have guns, but unfortunately I wasn't able to kill their healer, and I also took a lot of armor damage here, which is probably a bit unnecessary. But even if you cannot kill healers, it's definitely worth still engaging them, just so you can like get yourself in like intel, and just to like you want to be active, and you want to show people that you're a threat, and so they form up to fight you. I think a lot of people make the mistake where they just don't do anything, even if they have no way of like actually engaging. So I bounced to a bell, and then I warped to an outgate, and I think what's quite interesting here is I warped to another bell, just like bouncing between belts, waiting a bit for my shield regeneration to pick up a bit. And, just chatting and bringing Solo back a bit as well. There is also, there was an abandoned gecko as well. So I was just, mentioning in BSB that there's a gecko here if someone wants to come combat probes and pick it up. So I warped to the Owlgate, and this is maybe a mistake that I made. There was +3 people in local, and you'll see there's actually a warp disrupt probe on scanner. So these people in this system, they were camping my Owlgate, and they had a bubble up. And there's actually an Ashimu here as well as EOS, so they also have links as well. And the EOS is on grid to use drones as well. But because the stab is so fast, even though I get webbed immediately by this link to Ashimu, I'm able to still jump. That's one of the strengths of the stabbers, even though they're quite slow. Even when dual webbed, you can still kind of make it back to gates. I had to burn 20 kilometers there, and I still made it. And with a heated MWD cycle, since you go 3.6 or something, it's really easy for you to sort of just make it back to the gate. So anyway, what happens here is I warp off. I'm on the other side. My cap's still a bit dry. But I'm kind of thinking here that I can actually kill the Saber. So if I can split these people up, split this Ashimu EOS up from the Saber, I can definitely kill it. And there's just a few minors going on in here. And I remember the Ashimu pilot and the EOS pilot's name. So they just came into local kind of about now. I checked D-scan as I jumped just to see where they are. And as you can see, the Saber's already here waiting for me. But I didn't see the Saber or the Ashimu on 5AU. So I know I have a bit of time with the Saber. I have about 30 seconds before they come in. The Saber was just hugging the gate, though, and he didn't aggress, so I just kind of burned outside the bubble. But I noticed he came back in, so I recommitted. The Ashim's jumped back in at this point. You can see he's in local, but I remember he only had a scram, and where he decloaked is actually quite good for me. So I was able to kill off the Ashimu, then the Ashimu actually webs me into warp, but I still would have gotten away anyway, because he only had a scram, he didn't have a disruptor. I think that's a pretty interesting fight anyway, just because of like how it happened, and the stabber using its superior speed and can just sort of like get ahead of people like that, and that saber was not afraid of committing onto me, even though it's really dangerous for him to go in on a cruiser. And I think that's the strength of the stabber. If I was in a Vexor or something, I think the saber would have definitely been a lot more scared to go in. So this next fight's kind of interesting. About to jump into this system, MY dash, and I notice that there's a camp on the gate. So just gonna go ahead and jump. There's two dudes in this system, but there was only an Astero on scan, so I didn't really expect too much. So just jump into the system, and there's a Malediction, Hecate, Keris, and Zaqq on the gate. Now in this situation, what I really want to do is probably kill the Keris first, just so it won't be able to control me. If it has a long range scram or disruptor, it'll really impair my movement, and I want to focus my newts on the Hecate because it's really the only ship that does any damage on the grid, any significant damage, and that damage can be turned off with my newts if I can cycle them on him. The Malediction is the only thing that aggresses at this point though. The Jackdaw aggresses too, but I don't really want to go in on that because I have Phase Plasma loaded, which is the worst damage type. The Hecate aggro's now when I switched to him. I should have had the targets locked though. I think that was a mistake for me. But I killed the Malediction at this point though, and I switch onto the Hecate. Unfortunately, he does manage to get on top of me, and I don't have the correct damage loaded. So right now I'm sort of double clicking in space trying to get away from him just so I can apply perfectly to him. One fun thing about the Hecate, and one of the reasons why it's actually one of the more balanced tech-free destroyers, is that it actually has a really low base speed, and the stabber's almost twice as fast, so even while I'm webbed he can't mitigate damage for me. You see here that the newts turn off all his tackle, and they turn off his guns as well. He was doing a lot of damage to me, about, as you can see here, 822 a hit, but because, sorry, that was the Jackdaw, but he was doing about 900 a hit to me. And now that he's dead, the damage is a lot weaker, but the Jackdaw's still alive, and the Jackdaw's probably going to finish me off. I almost was able to warp there because I was actually aligned, but the Keris came back in and just got a scram on me from 20k. Unfortunately, I don't quite have enough life to sort of finish him off, but I think that was a cool fight, and it kind of shows you, the new pressure that the stabber can apply to tactical destroyers. Like, I was completely able to just shut down the Hecate, and that's a pretty reasonable camp for what I had. I think if I was on a stronger ship like a Vexor, they would have had much more there. This fight isn't really super impressive, it's just more of a engageability thing. So I warped to a gate. There's actually a Heretic in the system before, an FCON Heretic, which I thought would maybe be with this Sentinel here. There's a Sentinel just chilling on the gate. I thought the Heretic would be with him, but he's not on D-scan, and it turns out it wasn't. But I jump into this next system, and the Sentinel decides to follow me. And I just sort of holding my cloak now to see what he does, and it actually turns out that Sentinel's just like sort of approaching the gate, which shows that he's like interested in fighting me. If he has a tracking disruptor and a like a kiting fit, maybe he can nuke off my MWD. Maybe it's a bit scary. But I'm not too afraid of like a solo Sentinel. I don't think it's really all that scary in a stab, and I think even if he did like nuke me out and turn off my MWD, that I would be able to just like plink him off with drones and my AutoCannons. But you can see here, I was able to put my own new pressure onto him, and even though the Sentinel is a new boat itself, it does have a cap booster, but I was able to just like nuke him with my two medium energy neutralizers, turn off the tracking disruptor, turn off the disruptor, turn off his own nukes briefly, and he just got completely destroyed before he even knew what to do. And if you check the kill, actually he died before. He had an ancillary armor repairer, and he died without getting any of those charges off just because of the nukes. And this is also interesting, sort of like a nightmare. The Terrorist didn't actually scram me, which is kind of weird. I should have actually just used my Microwarpdrive to move off. I didn't expect him to just orbit me without a scram. But you can see here that the drones kind of do enough. Even though this is like a dual prop Tyrannus, it's kind of the worst with a NOS. It's kind of the worst nightmare for cruisers, since he doesn't deal with my drones, and I'm regenerating enough cap even with his NOS that I can like intermittently cycle my newts, and it's enough to kind of sort of just pacify him and deal with him. And if he did kill my drones, another thing I could do is I could like scoop the Sentinel's drones as well and use those. It's always worth noting things that are like left on the field. But I'll just show you here. You see here the Sentinel died without using any nanite repair paste in his ancillary. So that just goes to show that even a ship like a Sentinel that's normally like controlling the capacitor of other ships gets controlled, but I guess they're cap alphaed and controlled by Stabber with the 2 medium newts. So in this engagement, I'm against the 4X, and there is actually an Ashimu and Orpheus that are hunting me, and a few other ships that chase me a couple of jumps to this system. But I really like this system because it's quite far away. It's outside jump range. Bastion have been jumping caps on my cruisers recently, although they haven't actually killed me with them yet. But I go on this 4X here, and one thing that's really interesting to keep in mind is that you don't always have to commit straight away. So by sort of just hanging out here and just getting rid of his shield buffer, I'm setting myself up to be a lot better. And I see here that the 4X only has a disruptor right now, so he can't really control me. And I assume he's like disruptor web or something like that. I kind of just skirt outside the edge here of scram range, just getting my newt cycles on, and just to sort of check if the Ashimu is coming in or not. And you know, just skirting around like this and just doing damage to him before committing can really help you with the fight. And you know, like forcing him to Microwarpdrive after me and just getting newt cycles on him earlier is really going to help me when I commit. I do go a bit closer in at this point, but you can see here I noticed his disruptor dropped, so I assumed that he's getting capped out now. He pops Valkyries at this point, but he doesn't really put them on, or puts them on me now. But that's really too late. He should have put his Valkyries on me a lot earlier. You can see here they can't do any damage with his guns. He's just completely cap dry. And my energy is actually running out too, but I upped my Microwarpdrive around a bit, and I got I think it was 8 newt cycles in on him. So even though you can't run everything for too long, the brief period of time where you can actually run your stuff is enough to keep other people cap dead. And as you can see, I was able to keep this 4X just completely neutered the entire fight. The Ashimu comes in at this point, but he doesn't actually warp to the 4X, he warps to the gate, and I'm able to kill the 4X. He did actually kill one of my drones, which was kind of annoying. That was sort of before I committed, when I just put them on him. But since the Ashimu was really far away, I decided that I was going to steal one of the 4X's Valkyries instead. Like, jettison one of... If I launch one of my Acolytes, abandon it, then I can take the medium drone, which is slightly stronger than the small drone. It would still be better, obviously, to have 5 small drones instead of 3 small, 1 medium, but you know, sometimes it's worth taking little advantages like that. And that just goes to show you really the neuting power of the 4X and how effective it is at just controlling ships that don't have means to regenerate the capacitor through utility highs or cap boosters. I think this next fight's a bit cooler because it's sort of just what's happening, like how I set it up, and even though I end up getting like completely blobbed in this fight, it's quite funny. So I warp to a mining belt. There's a bunch of Machinors in this belt, and I thought maybe if I just... obviously I can't fight them all at 0 because, you know, 15 Machinors actually do a lot of DPS with 5 medium drones each, even if some of them are Tech 1. I thought if I can just approach them and bully them a little bit and make it look like... Sometimes a lot of miners just warp off, and then you can sort of go on one that's isolated. I also noticed that there is a Machinor that's kind of isolated off the group, but it's still in drone control range of the others, so it's not really anything that I can do. I do briefly go in, and Machinors actually don't have too good targeting range, so if you can just skirt in and just get the drones aggressed on you, you can sometimes pick them off. And what I'm hoping to do is if maybe I can kill their flights of drones, like if I can kill like 4 or 5 flights of mediums, I can definitely probably just go in and kill a Machinor or something. So right now I'm just sort of just playing it safe and skirting outside drone control range now, and I can just kill these drones off, especially the Tech 2 hammerheads. And that's another reason why the Stabber is kind of okay. It's actually faster than some medium drones. I think only Valkyries can really keep up with you. You can see here that I'm not taking any damage from these medium drones just because I'm faster than them. When I'm running my Microwarpdrive, they can't keep up. I'm taking damage now, obviously, because I turned off my Microwarpdrive. And I notice now that there's a Nemesis that has decloaked and is now shooting me. And that's actually a good target. I'm just sort of tunneling a bit too much on the drone, so I should have gone in on that Nemesis, because it's actually quite close. And he starts afterburning back towards the Machinal blob where he's a bit safe. But I should have maybe pursued the Nemesis a bit more aggressively here rather than just finishing off these drones. But I did notice the Nemesis, and he's kind of out of position. Or at least he did like briefly come out of position to shoot me, but then he backed off again. And ideally what I want to do is I want to fight the Nemesis outside the Machinal drone control range. It's definitely a target that can go down here, and you can see he's actually isolating from himself. The Nemesis is sort of coming back in now. He's the like small ship with the red sphere around it, and I noticed that he's isolated. So the Machinals do a lot of DPS, obviously, but and he's kind of burning into them. I'm pretty confident that none of them really have disruptors or anything like that. There's no tackle, so I can probably just murder this Nemesis and then just align out and warp off, and that's kind of actually what ends up happening. But this is kind of fun, even though I can't really do anything on this grid to the miners themselves. Just by hanging out, sometimes things will just happen and people will make mistakes that will end up killing them. So I managed to kill the Nemesis, and I decided to warp here because they don't actually put that many fires of drones on me, but I just warp it off just because, you know, I'm taking quite a bit of damage, and there's nothing that I can really achieve by staying around here. But then I'm just gonna come back, and Local actually went up quite a bit while we were fighting there, and was able to kill that Nemesis, which is kind of weird fit. For some reason, he has both Javelins and Scourge loaded at the same time, so I'm not quite sure what he was doing there, but Local's still going up, so there's a lot of people coming in that are kind of interested, and there's some guy from Bastion who dishonored the 1v1 with me. Well, I didn't really dishonor it, but he tried to set up like some dishonorable trap for me, and he's convoed me again, probably because he's like trying to kill me or something. Anyway, I decided to go back in just because, you know, Local has gone up a bit, and if these guys make mistakes, I can definitely get kills on them. The snack from Bastion is pretty funny, in my opinion. It just shows how frustrated they are from what a single stabber can do in their space. And it just motivates you to like keep coming back and keep trying whenever they smack talk you in Local. So now I come back to the ice belt, and I should have really checked to see what was here. I was really bad at directional scanner. But as you can see, there's a big... There's a Saber now, and he actually got trapped on the bubble, and that's kind of interesting because that means he came from my outgate. But the Saber's kind of there, and Saber's definitely something I can pick off. But Local has gone up by about 10 at this point, so it's kind of risky me going on a Saber. Maybe I should have if I was in a better position, maybe I could have split him off a bit more, because I know that those dudes are going to come in from the bubble, because they're probably going to come from the same direction as where the Saber is. The Saber does put up a bubble now, and that's probably going to just drag them here. Although the smaller stop bubble might actually stop them as well. But I think I could have maybe set up this fight a bit better. And so I decided to go on the Saber here. The Stiletto lands on him at 0, obviously, because it's nullified. And the Saber is definitely the most expensive thing. So, you know, being able to kill a Saber in a stabber is still going to come out is positive. They do have a lot of stuff now, obviously, and they actually don't get sucked into the bubble, which is kind of weird. I guess they were just outside of the small bubble and they warped before the Saber put the bubble up. I don't know, that's kind of weird, but either way, I was still able to kill a Saber, which is worth 17 million ISK, and my stabber only costs about 15 million ISK after insurance. So it's definitely a win, especially when they have 15 guys and they're sniping you in Local. But yeah, that was more about like kind of the fight rather than individual things. And I hope you found that interesting. So, to summarize, I think that the Stabber is not competitive in the current meta, but a lot of players will underestimate you, and you can get some fights that you wouldn't be able to get if you were flying a Vex or a Caracal. The dual medium nudes can actually be really strong, and are really unexpected, at least until this video goes up there, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to the eveiseasy channel for more videos. If you have any questions, send an email to my in-game character, which is Sutonia. And if you just want to hang out with other people who watch my channel or chat while I'm on, join the EIE pub channel in-game. Thanks for watching.